I'm really happy to be talking with you today. I work behind the scenes to support our schools as an executive program developer. And I know about Montessori not only through my professional career, but also as a Montessori mom. I am the mother of Tristan, aged 8, and Callista, who is almost 11. And both of my children have been in Montessori since age 2. So I've been able to follow their path through toddler, through Children's House program, and now through lower and upper elementary. Interesting because my answer to that has changed. When I first discovered Montessori as an educator, I fell in love with the materials. I mean, they are just brilliant. They're hands-on, they're multisensory, they're engaging. They take the child from the perceptual level to the concrete level so that the child really and truly understands for himself or herself what they're learning. So this is not memorize and forget. This is a true education. Another wonderful aspect of the Montessori materials is that they're self-correcting. So often a child can see for herself if an error was made and fix it without having to rely on an adult authority coming and saying, this is right or this is wrong. So I fell in love with the Montessori materials, and I encourage parents out there, if they have access to a Montessori school, ask a head of school or a Montessori guide to show you, for instance, in elementary, how the materials help a child learn grammar, or how they help a child learn about squaring and cubing, or what pi really means. And you'll just be fascinated by how engaging and how really successful these learning materials are. So as an educator, when I first discovered Montessori, I thought the biggest benefit was the learning materials. As a parent, watching my children work through years and years of Montessori, I now believe that the biggest benefit is probably the multi-age groupings. And the reason for that is by having different ages of children grouped together. Number one, there is so much room for your child to progress comfortably. So if you happen to have a daughter who is exceptional in mathematics and wants to work ahead in mathematics, in early childhood, it's completely individually paced. In elementary, that child can be placed in a math group. It's, different ages and abilities. That is a more advanced group without feeling like there's something odd or something wrong with the child because they don't fit a cookie cutter mold of exactly where the other 8-year-olds are at that point in time. And the same is true for areas where a child might need extra practice. So a child who might just be a little bit slower to develop in terms of reading skills, or in terms of another aspect of the curriculum, or in terms of social emotional maturity. You sometimes might have a 7-year-old who is more comfortable at that point playing with a younger child than a same-aged or older peer. So there's so much room for comfort and for growth in a multi-age setting. It also gives time for the child to develop a deep and authentic connection to their teacher. There are such benefits for a child being with the same guide over multiple years in terms of the child's comfort level and also in terms of just sheer productivity. If a teacher has a child for 1 or 2 or even 3 years, then there's a lot more space to get to know the child, and every fall as a new school year begins to really hit the ground running and not waste the first 4 to 6 weeks trying to figure that child out. How do they learn? What are their roadblocks? What are their current skill levels? So it's a much more productive and comfortable approach to have those multi-age groupings. I'd also add that for the peer community, having multi-age groupings means that everybody has a chance to be the newbie, to be the youngest one in the class who needs to watch and learn from the leaders. And every child also eventually has a chance to be that leader, to have to step up in terms of responsibility and accountability for their younger peers. And so again, looking at the whole child, there aren't just academic benefits to the multi-age groupings, there are really significant interpersonal and personal benefits as well. Often ask about homework in elementary, and I have a few things to say about that. One is I really do encourage parents to look at the research out there. It is quite definitive that there have been hundreds, even thousands of studies in terms of homework, and the research has shown that unfortunately homework has not been proven to improve academic skill, and it has been shown to have somewhat of a negative impact toward children's perspective on school and their attitude towards school. So the first thing I would say about homework is definitely look into the research because it is quite conclusive. Our policy on homework is, first of all, to point to the fact that our academic day is very productive. Because we have the way that the Montessori environment and curriculum are structured, that it is so individualized and so successful in terms of the learning materials that we use and the small group lessons that we use, that the children are accomplishing a lot and working hard during the day, that you usually find that there is not a great need to do extra practice and extra skill building in the evenings because we really have accomplished that during the day. That being said, it's always on a case-by-case basis. If we do have a child that needs that extra practice, then we will support that happening at home. And we definitely support enrichment at home. The thing is, it looks different. So our view of homework, which we hope is enrichment, is much more out there in the world. It's not drilling through practice sheets for the parent. It's saying, let's discover your child's passion and interests and see how we can run with those in the outside world. So if your child has fallen in love with dinosaurs, as many lower elementary children do, let's see which museums are in your neighborhood that you could visit. If your child maybe has some interest in cooking or baking, which is, by the way, a great reinforcement for mathematics, let's see what kind of baking and cooking you can do with your child at home. If your child has an interest in science, in botany, there's a lot that you can do out in nature with looking for different leaf shapes and bringing them home and analyzing them and classifying them. And so our view of homework is really as enrichment.
Actually, we had one that was just today. We had one called Impression of a Suspension, and in it, we got like 2 test tubes, filled them with water, and then we put in the powdered version of the mineral calcite and sand, and we checked the difference. For a little while, the calcite tube looked like milk, and then the calcite started to go to the bottom, and the same thing happened with the sand, only it took less time. For one thing, you can be the first to figure something out, like where you think you might be able to find, I don't know, an artifact or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're motivated enough, you can go on a going out to like a dig or something.
Oh, that must be fun to be able to go on a going out to learn more about something.
Because it's helpful to get things like resources outside the classroom. Like, we go to the library sometimes not just to return and get books. We sometimes go there because a lot of people need books on, like, say, the construction of houses for some reason.
I see. So they have a research topic they're interested in, and then they organize it going out to get more information. That's really helpful.
We decide what we do, and our journal helps us with that because when we do journal check, then our teacher won't know if we've done something if we haven't recorded it. And if we haven't recorded it, we'll probably forget what we did, and we'll never remember that when we need to work, we started something because we didn't write it down in our journal. So we can't just flip back to that page and say, oh, look, I started a report on the ancient Romans, and I haven't finished it yet. Because if you haven't written it down, then, well, that's a missed opportunity to do some work.
I see. That sounds like a really helpful tool. So you write down what you're working on and you write down the time that you've spent on it. And then it sounds like you, once in a while, you're going to sit down with your teacher and look at your work journal. And what kind of things do you talk about when you look at your work journal?
There are 4 things. The first one is, like, do you want any new lessons? I usually say no to that because because I don't need a lot of lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just don't need a lot of lessons.
Okay.
And the second thing is, what lessons do you need? Because some lessons, like, are on, like, handwork or something. And that's things that you can learn, but it's not essential in the lesson. And the second, and lessons you need, like, are things like sentence analysis or grammar or math. Whenever you two can organize a time to do it. For instance, most people are very busy, so that's not a thing that we do often, unless our teacher mentions, like, I noticed that you'd be doing something on, like, the Aztecs, and I saw that Ari was also doing something on that. Maybe you two should work together.
I see. So she sort of suggested teamwork. And I remember earlier this year you did a big poster on geometry on, what was it on? With some friends?
Yeah. That was follow-up to a lesson. It was on triangles?
Oh, on triangles, that's right.
On, like, right-angled
I see.
and stuff like that.
So it sounds like you have some chances to work independently and some chances to work with friends.
Usually work with friends when you're in, like, a lesson, because then one person has, like, a brilliant idea. Like, I know, I'm going to make a poster, and on one side of the poster, there is a board game. And then everybody wants to help, because they think it would be a good idea.
I see.
There are only a few problems with that. The first problem is who will do what.
Oh.
Because most people are better at something, and they're trying to make themselves perfect, which is unfortunately a skill that nobody can accomplish. But they don't know that, so they're trying to do it, and it's problematic when someone, like, I'm gonna have this job, and then someone also claims they want that job, then they'll have to find a compromise, which isn't always easy. And the second problem is, once the poster is done, who will take it home? Because if you're doing it in a group, it's not like somebody did half of it and everybody else did smaller parts, because, and the most likely thing I've heard fighting about so far is not about the different jobs, but at the end, who will take it home?
It sounds like when you do group work, there's a lot to work out. Who's going to do which job? Who's going to take home the finished poster? There's a lot to learn there.
There's even, like, when will we do it?
Oh, yeah.
Because it doesn't technically count as a work if you're not going to do it.
That's right. You have to figure out when you're going to get together and work on it. There's a lot to figure out there. Yeah.